Here is Newlove Annan again. This is our second main lecture. I give you three objectives under the study of introduction of music in worship and art. And I said we're going to study what God plans is for the gift of music in our hands, and two, how music has developed over time, and three, we will also talk about how we can use music in ministry, which is what we are doing now. So the previous lecture, we dealt with what we call the biblical foundation of music. In other words, we try to see the plan of God concerning the gift and use of music as gifts that he has given to you and I. So we are moving on to the second one, which is how music has been used by successive generations. And here we are going to look at factors relating to style in the olden days, how they approached music composition, instrument and style, and then other things that has to do with the historical development of music in worship. That's how we call it, the second part, historical development of music in worship. So all I'm doing is to build your interest in reading more or asking for more things to read. For instance, you can say, I'd like to know more about biblical foundation of music in worship, what God thinks about music, and then we can all help on the discussion on the page, and then provide different kinds of Bible passages where you can read to understand why God gave us the gift of music. Or you can say, I'm interested in how music has been used by successive generations. In other words, the historical development of music in worship. Then we can all suggest books or other things that you can look at in order to appreciate it more. So let's go to how successive generations have used music. Now, anytime we try to look at the development of music in worship or ministry, we need music itself to prove, either a recording or a sheet music or something, to see how this generation practice music and how different it is when the generation changed to another and that kind of thing. Unfortunately, from the Bible, we cannot get any information regarding how music sounded like, or how the notes were written, or anything like that before the time of the Psalms, for instance, because it doesn't describe how the music is. The Bible can say in Genesis 4:21, for instance, that Jubal was a very good instrumentalist. Well, where is his music? How did it sound like? We don't know. Even the Psalms, as we have them, only give us the text, the words. We don't have the music. So none of us know how the Psalms sounded like. David danced and his clothes came down and all of that. We would like to know how nice that music sounded. Whether it sounded like high life or reggae or classical, nobody knows. All we know is that there was music making. So even when we should start with the Psalms, we will only have the words or the text to deal with. So let's examine the Psalms. Now, there are different types of Psalms if you are studying the Psalms. Why do we study the Psalms? To know how they put the words together, to know how they structured the music, so that we can also see how we have learned from them and how we can even develop more. Now, there are different types of Psalms. You have Psalms of Lament, which is also called Cry for Help. Such an example is found in Psalm 22, which starts by saying, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Don't we do that today? We do that today a lot. Anytime you hear anybody singing and crying for help, mo bro, who for je, me kama fu Jesus, eja una me de me how nyina. That is a psalm of lament, a song of lament. So an example of Psalms of lament is in Psalm 22, as I have said. People have even argued or debated that Jesus sang whilst he was on the cross, because he quoted this particular psalm, dito. Psalm 22, my God, why have thou forsaken me? So that is one type of psalm called the Psalm of Lament. Then we do have psalms of thanksgiving. We do have psalms of praise. We do have psalms of adoration. We have hymns, special hymns like Psalm 18, and we have different types of hymns. So we should look at the psalms and see how they were written or structured. Then you see that there are different types of styles, poetic styles, that have been used in the writing of the words of the Psalms. We have things like personification, when they use things that are not human beings, but then they give it human qualities. For instance, when the Psalms say things like, mercy and truth have met together, righteousness and peace have kissed. Isn't it a wonderful type of language? We learn all of these things from the people of the Psalms. Then I move you quickly to the 300s, when there was actually a choir after, the New Testament in the early church around the time of Augustine. You see people also composing a lot, and there's a standing choir in the church, there's an organ, so you have instruments, and then you have singing going on together. It was so beautiful. Then you move on to when there was a lot of hymns. You have people like Isaac Watts. Before then, you have people like Martin Luther himself, who wrote, "A mighty fortress is our God." Then we have Isaac Watts. Then you are going to have people like the Wesleys. When you studied all of these people, then of course we'll move into Fanny Crosby, the blind woman who wrote "Blessed Assurance." Well, look at that hymn age when it was booming. You see two things. That in the early times, people were writing hymns that was centered on God, because they believed that you shouldn't center the words of a song on life or on yourself. So they were writing about the praise of God and things like that. So those were the typical early hymns. Then when you get to what we call the evangelical hymns, when we get to the Wesleys and the Crosbys, you see that now the attention is on you, the singer, because they want you to personalize the hymn as if it was yours. Amazing love, how can it be that it didn't used to be like that when they started writing hymns. It was all centered on God. They thought that when you center the text of a song on you, you are so sinful, so you should not concentrate on yourself, but you should concentrate on God. So you see that difference there, that you have hymns, early hymns that was centered on God, and then what we call the evangelical hymns. And of course, that built into what we call the early gospel songs by Iradi Sankey. They were short lines. Oh, how I love Jesus. Oh, how I love Jesus. Just repeated words like that. They were composed like that because outside crusades became very, very popular. Moody and all those people were having outside crusade, and they were attracting people from different denominations. Some were Catholics, some were Methodists, some were Presbyterians. So they had to compose short songs that everyone who had come to the crusade could sing. This gave birth to the modern gospel that we have today. So church music has developed over time. I believe that you have develop some interest right now in the historical development of church music, and you even look into our own church music here in Ghana and see how it developed from traditional music to early hymns, to the early gospels of Professor Kofi Abraham and what have you, to the modern gospels of the Reverend Yorsons, the Pastor Neo Kais, and the Pastor Kodes, and the Pastor Joe Bichams, to the very, very modern ones that we have. I believe we even have rap gospel music now in Ghana today. So those of you who are interested in the historical development of music in worship and ministry should be looking at how to trace music in worship and ministry from the time of the Psalms even up to now. Thank you very much. My name is Newlove Annan.